When Family Guy isn't firing shots at the people of Quahog, they're looking abroad for apparently easier targets. Which is why today we're taking a look at some of the most iconic Family Guy roasts of other countries and their people. Let's start with the land of Britain and to a greater extent to the United Kingdom. Home of the royal family, Shakespeare, and multiple jokes about oral hygiene, the country's posh and snooty reputation has been parodied in the show multiple times, especially in Chap Stewie, where Stewie gets reborn into an entirely British family.
Welcome to the world, baby chap.
I'm British? All right.
And for real this time. No more LARPing for this baby. So Stewie manages to change his origins and is born into a wealthy, well-to-do British family. They come with everything, a big fancy house, butlers waiting on their beck and call, and a bulldog constantly covered in his own snot.
Off, you little I'm not gonna beat a dog to some poof baby.
So that's where Winston Churchill's soul went after he died. I guess there are worse places people with his kind of power could go. But Stewie can no longer rely on being the smartest one in the family, as his own brothers have a mountain of accolades he'll have to catch up with.
He's chief scrum flanker on his varsity boogling team, which as far as we know makes us terribly proud.
Boogling is really one of those lesser appreciated sports more people should check out. Sure, a Grand Slam is awesome, but you haven't lived until you've seen a scrum flanker far ditch the leading Maddox to score a prim dim bongo buster to close out the 8th quarter. Most British sports were invented by guys perpetually having a stroke, I believe.
Why isn't Mommy tucking me in?
Oh, hush, love. You're born now. That's the end of all this mummy nonsense.
But Stewie quickly realizes that English coldness is nowhere near as comforting as dumb American love. So he decides to rebuild his time machine and set everything right again, but first he needs to get his hands on some nuclear materials. Thankfully, no one suspects you of wrongdoing in Britain as long as you have a cup of tea in hand. Hard to accidentally cause radiation poisoning with a little Earl Grey, right?
Did you see something suspicious about that baby?
Well, I did at first, but then he's got the tea vouching for him, doesn't he?
And with that, Stewie fixes the timeline and removes the chance of him being born into an English family. Basically, Stewie's relationship with Britain is the same relationship most people have with Las Vegas. Great to visit, but wouldn't want to live there. And the show would see what it would be like if the entire Griffin family were British in one of the mini stories inside the anthology episode Family Guy Viewer Mail number 2.
Family Guy, much like The Office, is based on a British series called Chap of the Manor.
Typical of America to steal all their ideas from the British, who stole all their ideas from the Celtics, who stole all their ideas from the Indo-Europeans. It really is a never-ending cycle. Anyway, this parody sees the entire family completely Britified, which gives the show the go-ahead to say some words they probably couldn't have gotten away with if it were coming from an American mouth.
So you fancy do you? Well here, have a old carton of
You just know the writers were excited about getting to let that one rip. But wait, if everyone is British, then what's Stewie?
Look at Lydia. What a two-bit Wichita. One of these days she's gonna wake up kilt.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. After all, that is what most Americans sound like. You think this is my natural speaking voice? No, it's an act. Think anyone would listen to me if I sounded like I was born in the stands of the Daytona 500? But despite being British, the show isn't much different from its American counterpart. They even have their own cutaways.
Ah, I love summer.
Jolly good show. I'm glad they were clapping, so I knew to find this funny. And the episode uses its setup to take shots at other aspects of British life, from pub drinking to the fact that no one owns a gun to the confusing world of cricket.
The field is teeming with men in helmets who don't seem like they need helmets, and men not in helmets who seem like they probably should be wearing helmets.
I wonder why this game never made it to American shores. They probably realized people weren't easily getting CTE from it and decided not to adopt it. It's not a real sport if it isn't turning your brain into a fine paste. Another hobby the Americans never picked up was yelling at our prince as he drives by. We tried having a prince that one time, but never really kept it going after that.
What? Wank?
I know.
What?
Yes, I know, yes.
And the whole thing ends with Peter accidentally killing the Queen. As a Yank, I've been informed that I can't comment on such an event, so here's a British knee gag.
Bugger! Bugger!
But this wasn't the first time we've seen the Griffins all British-like, as a quick cutaway in A Fish Out of Water had them replicating the nationality's politeness, dignity, and penchant for bursting into flames.
The port is quite good.
Yes, quite good.
Indeed.
Most certainly.
What year is it?
51.
Ah, delectable.
Indeed.
Yes.
It's just what men did back in the day, sit around a room and agree. I'm not really sure when they picked up the spontaneous combustion part of this tradition. Is that like something you have to be born with the ability to do, or is it more of a regional thing you pick up later in life? Sound off in the comments, Brits.
Oh dear.
What is it?
I've spontaneously combusted.
Oh, I am sorry.
Oh, it's quite all right. I've grown tired of living.
Ah, very good then.
For the best.
Yes, indeed.
But Stewie, Brian, and Mort would get a taste of what it's actually like to be in England, albeit during wartime in Road to Germany, where they got to catch a glimpse of Winston Churchill and his legendary wit.
Winston, drunk again, I see.
Yeah, well, you're a
Wickedly funny.
There was no one alive throwing out zingers like him. If you just don't get the genius of his wordplay and allegories, then I can't really help you out there. But this is a bad time to be in the UK, as World War II is in full swing, and the trio must reach Berlin to retrieve the uranium they need for the time machine. Luckily, the British Royal Air Force is ready to get some planes up in the air.
So let's get up there, be safe, and get back to the big fat pigs of wives we have waiting at home.
Never forget what the enemy's trying to take from you. We as a society have lost our way. It wasn't so long ago that we were all loving our fat wives. But Stewie doesn't care about all that, he just needs a plane. Luckily, he meets all the qualifications that come with being in the Royal Air Force.
I have a British accent, I'm possibly homosexual, I never brush my teeth, and my wife is ghastly.
Bombs away!
The Air Force has always had it easy. I hear you at least have to like the taste of crayons to get into the Marines. But despite their fighting spirit in the war, the British are known to be quite polite and have a hesitancy to turn to violence. Even their drive-bys are particularly harmless, as seen in There's Something About Polly.
I say, Jeremy, isn't that Reginald B. Stiffworth, a young upstart chap who's been touting the merits of a united European Commonwealth?
You mean like from Fallout? Are people really getting into arguments about that overseas? Well, I guess it's a little better than in America. Here you'll get jumped if you're wearing the wrong sports team jersey. But luckily, these British drive-bys don't usually end in death or injury, just a firm tongue lashing that gives you much to think about.
Oh, Reginald! I disagree!
And when British crime looks like that, you have to wonder what the British police force is equipped with. Luckily, the episode Our Idea Brian gives us a nice little glimpse into their toolkit.
I've got a whistle, a cloth helmet, a key to a coal box, a soft rubber truncheon, and a map of the city.
Very neat. Just one question. How is any of that going to help rescue a kidnapped child? I guess you just have to trust the process. Just remember not to get too snappy about your child getting kidnapped, or you could end up with a citation. I get you're upset about your kid, but there's really no reason not to use your inside voice.
I don't much like your tone. That's a tiny pencil and pad citation for you.
But let's move away from Britain and head to the place where England sent all its criminals, Australia. The land down under is known for the Sydney Opera House, all of its animals being able to kill you, and the much celebrated national pastime, Goon of Fortune. That word had a much different connotation than it does now. But before the settlers, there were the Australian Aboriginal people, and Peter particularly wants to focus on the gay ones. It's a dang shame we aren't hearing more didgeridoos in the club. It's time to mix it up a bit and give a platform to the ones who invented the vibes in the first place. I can take or leave dancing with koalas though. Once the sweat starts flowing, they start to really lose that cuteness factor. But for a more modern look at Australia, let's hop over to the episode Cutaway Land, which shows us just how hard it is to sell a suit to a man raised in the outback.
They're a little long in the leg. Can you make them shorts, cut off the sleeves, and make the shirt say Billabong?
Hey, you'd be getting your alterations done too if you had to go to a wedding in Australia. It might be south of the equator, but the temperatures go way, way north. But it's also because fashion is way different in that part of the world. It's almost like stepping into an alien world.
Would you like a belt? I'll take two. One for each wrist.
Every country has its dumb fashion trends. I'd be happy to never have to think about whatever this look was called ever again. Although this Australian guy may look insane, at least he found love in his catamaran. Oh yeah, forgot to mention you can marry boats down there. It might seem weird to you, but have you seen the poop deck on some of these boats? All I'm saying is, I've thought about it at least once.
Didgeridoo, you take this boat to be your wife? Or didgeridoo?
But if you ever get the itch to move on down to Australia, you can get a good feel of what the housing market is like by watching the show House Hunters Australia, as seen in the episode Adaptation.
So I carve boomerangs, and my wife is an 11-inch spider. Our budget is $7 million.
I didn't realize the boomerang market was so booming. I guess it's one of those industries that if it goes away, you can pretty much count on it coming back around. See what I did there? You kids know what a boomerang is, right? And I'm not talking about the Instagram boomerang.
And just look at these spacious walk-in closets.
Crikey, I might have to buy a second shirt.
But now we hop up north of the equator and land in France. If you enjoy macarons, a big metal tower, and the constant smell of cigarettes, then perhaps France might just be a place you'll want to check out. The country's been made fun of several times in Family Guy, like with Carter's critiques of their art house movies and Welcome Back, Carter.
A good-looking, depressed guy smoking a cigarette is not a movie.
Buddy, you just don't get it. That's cinema. France is all about films, and all you watch is movies. Two very different things. If you can't understand the emotional complexities of the nearly 4-hour-long film Jean Delmont 23 Quadrille Commère 1080 Bruxelles, then maybe just don't bother talking about film. Luckily, Carter also has some complaints that can be more easily agreed with.
And your sirens sound like gay guys having a threesome.
But Brian and Stewie would see a much darker side of France when they came to Paris to save Meg from a trafficking network in Lego My Mego.
Good day, foreigners. On behalf of the country of France, we surrender.
So after Meg gets kidnapped by a guy she shared a cab with, Brian and Stewie decide to take matters into their own hands by coming to Paris to find those responsible. And maybe enjoy the sights and sounds the city has to offer. Look, they paid for the plane ticket, so they might as well get the full experience.
This is not a jackhammer, it is a Jacques hammer.
All they gotta do is blend in and do as the French do, which essentially means having a cigarette in one hand and a glass of wine in the other. We're in this world for a good time, not a long time after all.
I really only smoke when I drink. Oh, well, this is nice.
So you're saying Stewie's already done this combo before? The guy might have a little Parisian in him after all. He'd probably want a bigger Parisian in him, but we're not here to talk about that right now. But they managed to find the man who kidnapped Meg, and while he tries to parkour away, he ends up dying. If it wasn't going to be the truck, it was going to be the dangerous levels of cringe that would get him later.
Oh no, I have shattered myself.
Luckily, they managed to get enough information off his body to figure out their next destination. Posing as cologne salesmen, all they need is a vocal match of a guy saying Drakkar Noir to find their man. That might be what all French men wear over there. It's like the Axe body spray of France, only this one doesn't make you smell like you just played basketball in an LA Fitness.
I am disgusting, so I will take 2 bottles Drakkar Noir.
And that's about all of Paris they get to see, but I think that pretty much sums up the experience. Wine, smoking, parkour, and knife fights. You won't find that listed on Expedia. But Stewie would get a second chance to explore the city of Paris in the Stowaway, where he accidentally flies to France with Quagmire and has a fun old time throughout the city.
Is he okay?
Yeah, he's eating one of those weird French street ham things that aren't good but are also amazing.
Are we talking about a croque monsieur? Because there's no denying those things are incredible. You put cheese inside the sandwich and on top of it? Then you can throw an egg on top of it and it becomes a croque madame? Get out of here. The French have their sandwich scene on point. Even if we're just talking about a jambon beurre, they've got everyone else beat. I'm a big sandwich aficionado, in case you couldn't tell.
Me and this baby who is not mine are in the room below trying to sleep.
This is hotel, not jungle gym.
But the two make the best of their situation as they go and see the sights of the city, including visiting the Louvre, home to the famous Mona Lisa painting. They say her eyes follow you wherever you go, and that includes the bathroom. I don't need this girl peeking through the cracks of the stall with her sly smile. What exactly has you smiling so much?
Oh, her expression is gas.
And this trip has proven to be gas as well. Where else can a man and a baby hang out, share a bottle of wine, and listen to some very loud French radio? I don't think you can do any combination of those three things in America.
We've got 2 tickets for Anne Direction, so give us a call at 555.
But you can't just have one glass of wine while in Paris. For one, it's very rude to the culture. Secondly, what else are you gonna do there? Wine's like the price of a bottle of water. Go nuts. Just maybe know when the baby's had enough. I think 0 glasses is usually enough for a baby.
Peter's always saying stuff. I love your dad, but he's not very sensitive.
Definitely time for them to get home, so thank goodness for public transportation. But when Stewie slips off the train when Quagmire isn't looking, the adult goes into full panic mode.
I'm looking for a little boy with red overalls and a yellow shirt.
You're looking to buy or to rent?
Stay classy, Paris. I mean, if this guy happens to have a kid who fits that description, maybe Peter and Lois won't realize it's not him. Couldn't hurt to try, right? So Quagmire tries to scour the city in search of Stewie, but the city isn't exactly making it easy for him.
Taxi rapid transfer garbage strike. It began a moment ago and will end the moment you leave.
The French always seem to be protesting stuff, and yet it doesn't stop them from living the way they want to live. They're either admirable, psychotic, or a little bit of both. But things get so bad that Quagmire ends up flying Brian out to Paris to help with the search, who of course has a lot to say about Quagmire's child-watching skills.
We went out to dinner and drank some wine, just like every responsible adult and child in France.
Hey, when in Rome, you know? That's why I try to fight at least one line every time I'm actually in Rome. Luckily, they managed to track him down, figuring he would go to where French novelist Marcel Proust is buried. Not because he likes him or anything, I think he just wanted to pee on his grave.
Ugh, can't even get through his tomb quote.
So a happy ending for all, and one which didn't make France look like a complete pigsty. And this is Family Guy we're talking about, that's asking a lot. And even more members of the cast got to travel to Paris and enjoy what the country has to offer, like a plentiful amount of men to cheat on your husband with, which is what appeals to Bonnie the most in Foreign Affairs.
Look at all the people on the street. Not a lot of people of color here, but the ones that are black are really black.
So Bonnie eventually discloses that she's on this trip to cheat on Joe, which kind of puts a damper on this entire vacation. Can't you just drunkenly share a cigarette with someone under the Eiffel Tower like a normal tourist? At least Lois knows how to do tourism correctly, being amazed at every little thing she sees like you can't find it in America.
I've never seen anything like that before. A croissant with almonds on it. And could you bring me a beer?
What a combo. Then again, maybe she's onto something with this breakfast and beer combo. I've always wished I could feel bloated and sad earlier in the day, and this may just be the way. But Lois has to keep being reminded that Bonnie isn't here to eat the same kind of things on this trip.
Would you like to sample a warm French baguette?
Oh, my.
My intention is to void myself on you.
I guess I need to read up on some common Parisian practices because this was not covered in the brochure. And despite Lois's warnings and displeasure with the idea, Bonnie finds herself a French Joe to put some butterflies in her stomach. That's better than the bread and poop the other guy was offering.
Will you stay here with me?
Here? In Paris?
Well, Paris is such a nice city that it'd be hard to pass up, aside from the mime-on-mime violence they experience. It's gruesome, it's brutal, but hey, at least it's quiet. Thankfully, Bonnie's able to be won over by Joe all over again when he travels to Paris and actually manages to walk. That's the American fighting spirit right there. And just like the French, Bonnie's fling pretty much surrenders. I don't even know if he really needs that chair. His legs might have just surrendered also.
I would do anything for love, but I won't do that.
And now we head north of the United States to our upstairs neighbor, Canada. When you think of Canada, you may think of Mounties, moose, and blood that runs thick with maple syrup, but there's a lot more the Great White North is known for. For instance, the populace is usually regarded as being very polite, even its bullies, as seen in trading places.
Well, well, look who matriculated to grade 9. Someone wants to get into university.
No personal attacks, no deep-cutting insults, just hating for the love of the game. I still wouldn't want to mess with a bully from any country, but at least there are systems in place to make the process a whole lot less painful.
Well, you're gonna be sorry when we put you in the hospital for free, eh?
And even if you end up in prison in Canada, just know that everyone from the guards to the inmates will still be super polite, even letting you go out for a little stroll as seen in The Former Life of Brian.
Can I go out through here? Just be back by bedtime, okay.
Yeah, jail up there is a little bit more like a timeout. I think you actually get sent there if you don't say sorry enough. Even if you're completely in the right, you gotta say sorry because you never know how someone's gonna feel, eh? Putting a guy away for life could really make him sad, so you gotta let him know that you care a little. But those are about as bad as Canadians get as far as Family Guy's concerned. They usually tend to view them as helpful people who'd be willing to give you the shirt off their back, or their back off their back as demonstrated in Road to the North Pole.
Kind of on our way to the North Pole.
Oh, a car won't take you there anyway, but if you like, you can take my snowmobile.
Canada might be the only place you can crash your car and get a free vehicle in return. And this dude doesn't even want money or anything. He's just doing this to honor his proud heritage as a Canadian. Maybe they should be the only country with nuclear weapons since they seem to be the only ones with level heads. This guy even gives him a little money and a snack for the road.
If you like, you can have all my money and my leg.
Okay.
But Peter and Chris would also travel to Canada to prove whether or not Chris's girlfriend was real in Canada, although the only real part of Canada they get to experience is the strip clubs.
Fellas, put your mittens together for Brandy!
The show's gotta be like an hour long to get all those layers off, but at least the club's kind enough to offer you some hot soup while you watch. I've always been shocked to learn that serving food in a strip club is a pretty common thing. I don't know, seeing a girl dance while chowing down on a meatball sub seems like conflicting vibes to me. The Canadians have it kind of figured out at least, and all those layers really get the imagination going.
God, just imagine when she takes off her middle pair of socks.
And this wasn't the first time Peter tried to get to Canada, as he and the guys attempted a trip in Big Fat to go see what Canadian exotic clubs were all about.
The girls up in Canada are gorgeous, and they all play ice hockey, so they lose their teeth by age 10.
Honestly, the big deal is you can still get the same end result just by visiting a nursing home. Somehow I think that's even less embarrassing than traveling across the country to see naked Canadian girls. So the guys attempt to fly there, crash their plane in the woods, and seem destined to die out there until they come across a friendly Canadian.
A plane crashes in your backyard and you don't say anything?
This is Canada, eh? I thought it might be rude to intrude on your plane crash.
Fair point. Sometimes when I'm starving to death in the wilderness with 2 broken legs, the last thing I want is all the attention on me. Good on you, Canada, for having the decency to let me die a preventable death in peace. But now we head south of the border and down into Mexico. The home of mariachi, tequila, and welcoming dead people into your home is actually Peter's birth country, but that doesn't mean the show has to portray it in the most accurate of ways, like when they showed a traditional Mexican funeral in The Former Life of Brian.
Adios a Javier, y Pepe, y Carlos, y Lupe.
Hey, that just seems pretty frugal to me. Why waste so much money on a wooden box that's just going to be put in the ground anyway? Save a little money and put more towards the after party. The living can be sad, but they don't gotta walk away hungry.
Y otra Lupe. Salvador, Fabian, Jesus, Maria, Vicente.
And while Mexico is a beautiful country brimming with culture, it does have some areas that have a reputation for being a bit dangerous. That's why you should exercise caution when staying at resorts down there, as seen in Baby Got Black.
I was skeptical about traveling to Mexico. I took one step outside the resort.
Disregarding the accuracy of that cutaway, why are you trying to leave the resort anyway? You pay all that money for an all-inclusive and then you want to leave? Buddy, I'm getting my money's worth on bottomless margaritas and endless tacos. You can get beheaded on your own time back home. And as we cross the ocean yet again, we end up in the highly popular country of Japan. The land of cherry blossoms, sushi, and anime girls that look 10 even though they're apparently 100 is often misunderstood by gaijin, who only really view the country based on the art that comes out of it, as illustrated by the episode The Blind Side.
Hey, you want to see a movie? Nah, we're Japanese. Let's go watch a schoolgirl bang an octopus.
I'm sure there are more things to see over there, but maybe they're like Hollywood and just keep remaking the same thing over and over again. Hey, you can blame the creators, but you should be blaming the people who keep coming back to see it. But with a descriptor like schoolgirl bangs an octopus, I can understand the morbid curiosity.
Suction cup feel good.
And sometimes the Japanese culture makes its way over to America, or at least what Americans think the culture is, as evidenced by how Peter runs his sushi restaurant in Lottery Fever.
Irashaimase! Hajimemashite! Here comes our black guy!
It's really the communal aspect that Peter really enjoys. Understanding that the language is more than shouting gibberish will come in time. Maybe. Hopefully. But if you want this experience in the US, just go to a Moe's. They're legally required to yell "Welcome to Moe's" at you. But it's not all happy times in Japan. The country has endured through numerous wars and devastating attacks on its soil. The events that unfolded decades ago in Hiroshima are a clear example, but as shown in P-Tarded, some people were having a bad day regardless.
Oh, a parking ticket! I was gone 5 minutes! Oh, how could this day get any worse?
President Harry S. Truman has entered the chat. It's one of those events that feels so far away that you wonder if it's okay to joke about now. Family Guy certainly thinks so, but this guy might actually be lucky. Getting mauled by a baboon might just be the better way to go.
Oh my God.
And it's clear that Peter doesn't understand much about the Japanese people, given that he definitely can't figure out why Japanese girls seem to laugh at everything like in T. Peter.
So I drove to work this morning, and I had to stop for coffee?
I don't know, this could be a very elaborate, deep-seated inside joke that Peter just isn't privy to. Then again, have you ever driven to work and gotten coffee? That's pretty funny. My eyes are tearing up just thinking about it.
So there's a Starbucks near my house?
You people are a circus.
And Peter definitely doesn't understand the weird world of Japanese game shows, even finding himself on one in Carter and Trisha and never really knowing when the game is over.
Ow! I don't know which way the horse goes! Ah! Why is that guy laughing at me, and where is he?
I love game shows. Where else can you see public humiliation on a national level like this? Look, if we're gonna get rid of the stocks, we need something embarrassing to take their place. But I'll also admit that I have no clue about what goes on in some of these games.
Time for a good door, bad door!
Wait, how bad is the bad door?
Pretty bad from the looks of it. But in this day and age of mass surveillance and recording, you have to keep your guard up. The game only ends when the ratings say it should end. But maybe you'll win a new microwave or something along the way.
I was almost eaten alive by an escalator. The game is still going on?
And heading back to Europe, we arrive in Germany. The country is most widely known for its automotive industry, big pretzels, and of course, Oktoberfest, a nationally sanctioned day to destroy your liver. But how did such a holiday come into existence? Well, according to the episode Pitch Imperfect, it went a little something like this.
We need to do something that shows we are fun and silly and not human exterminators.
Well, getting people sloppily drunk is a good way to make them forget. Drunk people forget everything. Their keys, their wallet, war crimes. So I think what I'm getting at is that if everyone were drunk 24/7, we might not have any more wars. Is that the message of Oktoberfest? Regardless, I'm throwing on some lederhosen and getting festive with it.
That and little square mustaches because—
No more mustaches!
But I guess it has been kinda hard to forget about some aspects of German history. Family Guy certainly won't let you forget, but sometimes they'll do it in a way that's a bit on the subtler side, like with the sausage stalls and I Never Met the Dead Man. See, all international disputes are just one big sausage measuring contest. In this specific case, that's very, very literal. Just one man jealous of another man's sausage. But we don't have to live our lives in perpetual sausage envy. If we could just learn to come together and share our sausages with one another, maybe things would turn out all right. So get out there and share your sausage with your friends, your neighbors, and people all over the world. But there's far more to the country of Germany than all that, and if you ever wanted to see what they like, you just need to tune into the hottest talk show in the country as seen in Farmer Guy.
Willkommen! Where are we?
Das ist gut!
which is basically just a show about listing things and saying if they're good or not. You know, I was ready to decide what was good and bad on my own, but since the guy on the television's saying it, I might just have to listen to him. They'd never let someone with bad opinions on TV. It's just not possible.
Euthanasia for the mentally feeble, das ist gut.
And staying in Europe, we move on over to the island nation of Ireland. When you think of Ireland, you may think of leprechauns, a tall pint of Guinness, and a certain shot at the bar you should 100% not order by name. But the country has an even richer history than that, which is why Peter takes Chris to the Irish History Museum in Peter Griffin, Husband, Father, Brother. Okay, well, there's probably some better aspects of history to learn about. Apparently, Ireland used to be a much different place before the invention of alcohol.
Gentlemen, today we, Ireland's top scientists, have found a way to convert our entire population to pure energy.
Incredible stuff, but also kinda boring. Don't you think this would all be better if your vision were a little hazy, your stomach was constantly flip-flopping, and you just had the unquenchable urge to punch someone in the face?
Whiskey.
And eventually, Peter was finally able to visit his homeland when he decided to track down his biological father and Peter's two dads.
I don't think the Irish drink as much as people say they do.
You could look at Ireland as being a land of drunks, but maybe they're just really into recycling. I know if a plane landing ever goes sideways, I'd want 1,000,000 glass bottles there to cushion my fall. But this is Peter's first exposure to Irish culture, and I'm sure he'll feel right at home as soon as he starts understanding what anyone's saying.
Is this McSwiggin Village?
Dibble a man who say a word again it,
Is that a yes or a no?
Made sense to me. That's a clear sign of someone being like, I am mentally unwell and you should walk away. Nah, just kidding. That's just the old traditional Irish accent. You'll find a lot more of that here, along with rolling hills, cobblestone streets, and the sternest of nuns.
Don't be so bold with your dark hair and your proud ways.
I can't feel a thing.
But Peter does manage to eventually track down his father, who happens to hold the distinct honor of being the town drunk. If he were in America, he'd be reviled and banned from every establishment. But here, it's a badge of honor. Do you know how much effort it takes to be the drunkest Irishman? Herculean levels of strength.
I don't know exactly where the County Cork is, but I know where it should be!
The smacking of the table is a big part of Irish culture as well. Before there was canned laughter, there was that to let you know what was being said was funny. It's clear Peter is a spitting image of his father, who actually has his own Irish animal sidekick too.
You can't be me son. You and me are nothing alike. Just ask me sheep, O'Brien. Whose leg do you have to hump to get a pint of Guinness around here?
Brian might just have to do some 23andMe because he may have a little bit of Irish heritage in him after all. But Peter and Mickey eventually bond over, you guessed it, drinking. The pubs of Ireland are a lot like Olive Garden. When you're here, you're family. And when you're drunk, you might just look good enough to kiss.
You knocked up my mom and never called her again. Yeah, so what? So what? So let's dance!
But now we head over into Asia with the most populous country in the world, India. Home of the Taj Mahal, a plethora of spices, and the award for God with the most arms, the country has garnered both positive and negative portrayals from Family Guy. Mostly negative because, you know, Family Guy. Their public transportation is often called into question, like in You Can't Handle the Booth.
I would just like you to know that I have no problem with you breastfeeding in this booth.
Of course, we can't hear what the punchline is because this is You Can't Handle the Booth, which is pretty much the joke of the entire episode. But you get the gist of it. Crowded buses, people squished up against each other, a cow driving said bus. All sights you kinda expect to see in India. Cows getting their driver's licenses was actually a pretty big deal over there. But pretty much any time India gets brought up on the show, it's to critique the country's perceived level of cleanliness, like when the gang visited in 3 Acts of God.
India, the most spiritual country in the world.
Look, I don't see a problem with having a designated trash river. Having it be the same river you drink out of and bathe in may cause some complications though. It's true that India hasn't had the best waste disposal infrastructure for many years, and while things are changing, it's still a bit of a problem in some areas. Hey, you try wrangling 1.5 billion people.
God is not here.
And keeping with Asia, now we move to what was once the most populous country in the world, China. Known for the Great Wall of China, giant pandas, and a suspicious hatred for Winnie the Pooh, our first look at the country in the show isn't actually from the country itself, but rather Rhode Island's Chinatown, and breaking out is hard to do. But don't worry, there's still plenty of stereotypes to go around.
Well, at least I don't have to worry about the evil monkey here.
So the Griffin family needs to lay low after breaking Lois out of jail, so they decide to integrate into a predominantly Asian society. Kinda hard to do that when it feels like this is Peter's first time meeting an Asian person.
Oh my god, it's Jackie Chan! Oh my god, it's Jackie Chan!
You do that enough and you may actually eventually run into him, but at what cost? But to blend in, the family decides to get jobs, with Chris working as a rickshaw driver.
Hey, you here on business? I bet it's business, because I had a fare earlier today that...
It used to be expected to talk to your sweaty, out-of-breath wagon puller on these things. It probably won't be long until Waymo comes through and swipes up this industry too. Stewie also gets a job down at a sweatshop because what else is a baby supposed to do for work?
I say, I seem to have sewn a shoe to my hand. May I go to the nurse?
Replace him!
At least let him sew another one onto the other hand. Kids bully each other with poor shoe choices, but they'll chop your head off if you're only wearing one shoe on your hands. And Peter, of course, decides to take up sumo wrestling. Finally, all that eating and drinking himself into an early grave has an upside.
Boy, you put on weight, Jackie Chan.
At least there's a ton of opportunities in Asian Town, even if it is all a little stereotypical. But it can be fun to see how the other side of the world lives. Often you'll find we aren't so different, from our values to even our television shows.
Silly rabbit, Twix are for kids.
You shall!
But there are some differences that people like to hang on to. For instance, there used to be laws limiting how many children you could have, and there was a societal preference to have boys, something Death alludes to when he's reincarnated in Grumpy Old Man.
Dude, bad news. You're dead.
What? But I'm Death.
Sorry, dude. Super death.
Maybe he'll get lucky on a spin of the old reincarnation wheel. That's one of those things I never figured out if I want to be true or not. It would be very funny to live a long, fulfilling life only to return as like a fly for about 10 seconds. Death doesn't turn into a fly, but he does last about as long.
You're being reincarnated as a Chinese baby right now. Girl?
Girl.
And another common stereotype is that a lot of Chinese parents are very strict and want their children to get high-end jobs as soon as possible, like in Family Guy.
You doctor yet? No, Dad, I'm 12.
Talk to me when you doctor.
Not every baby can come right out of the womb and immediately start performing open-heart surgery. Honestly, I don't know if any baby can do that. But that doesn't mean you still can't put the pressure on your kids to try. After all, they did ask to be born, right? It's only fair they start paying their dues the moment breath touches their lungs. But the show has gone all the way into China before, like when Brian, Stewie, and Rupert visit to see where Rupert came from in China Doll.
The Olympics are coming!
Hey, the fact that they were able to do that so quickly is pretty impressive. Really giving the Amish a run for their money. Hopefully all the people who just died from unsafe working conditions can still be proud. And the episode pokes fun at what Americans usually see China as, a country swept up by industry with poor working environments and overbearing public spying.
I'll pay you anything if you'll tell me the ancient Chinese secret.
It's probably just stretching every day or having a balanced amount of salt in your diet. Boom, cracked it. And I didn't even have to fight an army of terracotta soldiers to get it. There's honestly just so many stereotypes for them to work with that they don't even find the time to get through all of them, but you probably already know what they are going to be anyway.
Through the obligatory Chinese New Year parade! No, over there, where that old man with a wispy beard sells mythical creatures!
And now we return to Europe once again to take a look at the country of Italy. The birthplace of the Renaissance, pizza, and the art of talking with your hands, the show has honestly had the most to say about Italian Americans, but just because they're away from their homeland doesn't mean they can't be parodied, like when Peter tried to speak Italian in McStroke.
Can we get some salami and...
Brian, let me handle this. Scusi, babidi boopy?
Contrary to popular belief, having a mustache does not mean you can suddenly speak Italian. Sure, you may develop a hankering for pasta and the urge to curb stomp a turtle, but your vocabulary doesn't exactly change. But like I said, speaking Italian is all in the hands, so if you can just do that and not get punched in the face, maybe you'll make it out alright.
You can't speak Italian just because you have a mustache.
But Italian communities are often quite tight-knit, and if you get accepted into one, you become a part of a whole new family, which Chris experiences while attending vocational school in Stand By Meg.
Rocco here learned cooking the joint. Okay, everybody dirty up your hands, we'll eat in 10.
It's always nice to see a culture that has such a healthy relationship with food to the point where it's all they're thinking about. I guess if you spent your entire day thinking about burgers and hot dogs, there may be something wrong with you. The Italians just do it differently, you know?
A big part of being a mechanic is being completely shocked when somebody hasn't had a particular item on a restaurant menu.
I would have figured the bigger part involves knowing how to work on cars, but what do I know? I have to call AAA every time I need my windshield wipers replaced. But it becomes clear that the Italian-dominant school takes quite a liking to Chris, even roping him in on some of their side projects.
Mr. Firestone says hello.
Ow, 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 stop it.
It'd be misguided to say that every Italian-American has some kind of mob connection, but it's better to be safe than sorry. So remember to tip pretty well when you go out for pasta. Maybe even do that finger-kissing thing and say my compliments to the chef. That stuff can go a long way. But hanging out with this crowd has fundamentally changed Chris, and the only way to bring him back to normal is to speak to him in a way the Italians can understand.
You're breaking your mother's heart!
Ma! Why didn't you say so, Ma?
Because Italian men never want to break their mom's heart. Not enough to not do the thing that breaks their heart, but you know, they'll be super upset about it later, so you know they care. And in an effort to not upset their moms, they tend to beat around the bush, not saying exactly what they mean, even though it's pretty clear as seen in Peter's Def Jam.
He's a backwards mechanic. He likes to play in the dirt.
You mean gay?
Oh, mama! What on, Peter?
There's always going to be a million different ways to describe someone like that, but God forbid you call a spade a spade. After all, it is tradition to be in a loveless marriage and take long weekend trips with your buddies, which happens to be the only times in your life when you actually smile. That's just what the Italians do. Would people who wear such short bathing suits really make you think twice about someone's preferences? And that's our list. Which parodies about other countries do you think are the most accurate? Which ones do you think the show gets wrong? Hash it out down in the comments, and don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more great Family Guy videos.